fella?
Ready.
All right. Mike Duncan Penberthy. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I had to look it up, but you never dunked before.
Yeah. I did dunk a lot in high school, but not in the NBA.
Okay.
No, zero dunks in the NBA. So.
Well, you got enough threes to make up for it.
Yeah, I'll take 3 over 2.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being on the show.
No problem.
It's good to sit down a little bit.
Definitely.
Not many short white guys make it to the league, and I know that's a story that we have to hear. But I do want people to know as we get started that greater than the mountain and the journey you had to climb to get to succeed in your basketball journey is the love that you have for the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a powerful testimony involving this amazing journey in sports. Now I've had the privilege of knowing you for a little while, and we hooped together, we played some golf together, and man, I love when people ask you about your Laker days, because you have some amazing stories. So now that I got the microphone, I want to ask you, tell us about what it was like with those Laker teams.
Yeah, that was with Phil Jackson, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal. That's 3 of the greatest, basketball people that ever lived. So we're talking about, some historical figures to have been around, and then Tex Winter, the inventor of the triangle. So in terms of like basketball history, these are 4 like big time people in their individual categories, and 3 Hall of Famers. I think 4 now. I think they put Tex in as well. So it was an experience that's hard to explain. There are a lot of stories I can tell. There's a lot I can't tell, but
you need to write a book before you go. We'll publish it. Yeah.
So great times, great memories. I still talk to all those guys, actually, all 3 of those guys, and Rick Fox, Robert Ory, Derek Fisher, Mark Madsen. So I still see and talk to all those guys.
Nice. Yeah. Who's your favorite teammate?
Shaq, by far.
Shaq.
Yeah, but he's my favorite teammate of all time. I played on a number of teams professionally for 11 years. So in the NBA, he was by far my favorite. He's just a big kid. He doesn't want to do anything but laugh. Like he wants to win, but he'd like to laugh along the way. If he could have it both ways, he would have fun for 3 quarters, and then he would score 25 in the 4th, and we'd win.
Yeah.
So that's part of what made him great, but he was by far the best teammate.
That's cool. What do you think made that team special? Winning the championship and kind of that.
Well, surrendered. I think everybody surrendered to the triangle. So Phil's vision for a system-dominated team where the players bought in completely, I would say, was the key there. It didn't become personal between anybody and Phil at that point, right? It's all about the system. So he could also defer and push any kind of conflict onto the system. So that allowed relationships to maintain, and then you became a rebel of the system rather than a rebel against Phil. So then it became acceptable for him to play guys like me who were high skilled, high intelligence, because I was surrendered to the system as well. So it was about what was best for the system and best for the team. And that team, and he's said it before, executed the triangle better than any other team he ever coached. So it was a full surrender. There was a lot of older guys too that maybe couldn't venture outside of those principles, but technically speaking, we had a balance at every niche that's necessary to win in the NBA. We had great defense, we had great size, we had 2 dominant superstars, we had shooting, we had intelligence, we had buy-in all the way, and we had great game plans. So it's a long season in the NBA. You've got to be able to understand that it's a journey and that you're going to trek slowly at times, and other times you're gonna go too fast, but you don't want to move too quickly and you don't want to move too slowly. You want to kind of stay even keel, and then it isn't how many points you score; it's when you score them. And again, that's more buy-in into that idea.
Yeah. So that obviously is one thing that I think made Phil great.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say? That just because that was the next thing I was just curious. Like having you played for a ton of coaches, but having someone like Phil Jackson, You think that was his biggest strength as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, he understood the player, right? He understood his system, and he understood how to adapt his system to the player. So he adapted it to the Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen in that era with Rodman. He also adapted it without them. Jordan didn't play with them, and they still made the Eastern Conference Finals. But he brings Shaq in, which is a completely different piece that goes in there. And then you have Kobe, who's desire to want to just take the game at moments when it wasn't necessary, just wanting to show how good he really was. That was a challenge, for him to be able to pull that back. And so, that's the gift of Phil Jackson's gift was not only his knowledge of what was necessary, but understanding the pieces that went into it, and then the ability to communicate clearly on a daily basis what those goals were. So everybody understood where we were going.
Yeah.
And that it was about the team. Only it was said it was about the system.
So in today's game, do you think one of the tougher things is for these coaches is having that respect of these guys to get the buy-in?
Yeah, buy-in is the number one thing. I mean, you got to have buy-in, or your philosophy doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you know if they aren't going to listen to you.
Yeah.
Right? So you're a leader only in that you have somebody following you. So if the players aren't following you, guess what? You're not the leader. So it doesn't matter who the head coach is, assistant coach, other coaches, players. Like, the team's going to follow whoever that leader is, and he emerges. Now, it may be a guy that's in a different role, but that team's going to follow and take on the character traits of that leader. And Phil Jackson was an alpha, so it was easy to follow him.
Yeah.
But there are other coaches in today's game that have a hard time with that, and it's not easy. Just because you know what you're talking about doesn't mean the players are going to listen. So you got to have some credibility.
Yeah, you see that a lot. Yeah, I think that's what amazing looking at what Phil was able to do with all those egos.
Right, definitely.
And big guys, making millions of dollars and superstars and Hall of Famers and stuff like that. What was give us a little taste of what Kobe was like in a daily life?
Yeah, I mean, I guarded him every day, so I saw him on a daily basis, and he wanted to tear my heart out every day, So he made me better. I don't think I made him better, but I think he made me better. And we competed every day. I still have scars on my body from his days when he was frustrated or just wanted to try to take it out on me. But I was a fighter, so he respected me. I wasn't going to let him do anything to me that was uncalled for. He wasn't going to elbow me in the chest like Sasa Vujicic. In those videos, if he'd have done that, I'd have punched him. So there was like on the basketball floor and in those team settings, it's a lot more physical and intense, I think, than most fans really understand. And I think there's fights all the time in those settings. Maybe not so much anymore. The kids today now don't want to push those buttons. But if Kobe elbows me, he's getting punched. And then once he realizes that, now he respects you. Mm-hmm. And you can actually build some cohesiveness. But he always wanted to test you and see if you were going to stand up to his will and his strength on a daily basis. And if you weren't willing to do that, then he wrote you off.
Yeah.
So
that's
part of that team was the fact that we didn't give in to him. Like, we didn't let him take over and just dominate the team. We had too many guys. Ron Harper, Tyronn Lue. I mean, a great leader nowadays. Derek Fisher. Brian Shaw, Greg Foster, like, these are all vets.
Yeah.
So Kobe would try to influence the game. Robert Horry, those guys. Phil would say, "I'm only going to play you unless you actually continue to run what we're doing. But if you bow down to him when he cries to you and yells at you and screams for the ball and don't run our stuff, then guess what? I can't play you." So that was part of why our team was good, because we didn't give in to him. But talent-wise, one of the greatest to ever walk the earth.
Yeah. Well, just that perspective to see kind of inside. We just look at, all we look at today, I think, is the highlight reel. Mm-hmm. When we look at that person and what they're able to do and athletic, and it becomes so less individual, even in a team sport like basketball, which you and I have been around a lot, it's become so about the person. Mm-hmm. And I think you look at teams to be successful. One, you got to play defense, and two, you have to play as a team.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
you just miss that, because I think the skill level is, you have some of these great stars, but it's probably not that different from the team that's finishing in 10th place.
Yeah.
But the buy-in and all and those type of things, and the guys being young have a hard time buying into it. Coaches have a hard time kind of filtering through that. So take us back, because I'm hoping you're going to share this story. You're at Laker camp, so you've been playing overseas.
Yep.
Before,
2 years.
yep, and now you're in Laker camp, trying to reach that goal.
Yeah.
Tell us what that journey was like, trying to make the squad.
Well, I had to try out with the Lakers a number of times just to get into camp. So I played summer league with Slam Magazine. They had a team in the LA Summer League back when they had it in Long Beach.
Yep.
Now it's no longer there. It's in Las Vegas, and they don't have a free agent division, which is where I came out of. So
Me too.
yeah, I mean, it's amazing to think like there's a lot of really good players that maybe don't get the opportunities, and I played in multiple games just to jump on other teams just to try to get seen.
Yeah.
So it was pretty persistent. But I played right before the Lakers. They saw me play once. I had a really good game. Then they came back the next day. The Lakers were playing at 5, and I was playing at 3. So they just happened to see me again, and I played well again. And then they invited Tex Winters to come watch me at a practice down at Hope University, and I played well there. And then the next day, Kupchak coming in to watch Mike play. So eventually I got through everybody, and finally he came and watched me play. And they put me through a workout afterwards. I think I missed one shot out of 90, and that was, I remember thinking through myself, like, if I don't make it after this, then I'm never playing basketball again, because I just didn't miss.
Yeah.
I was making everything. And so it was one of those days where I was like, okay, this could all come together. Well, then I go thinking I'm going to training camp, and it's another tryout. It's like 30 more guys. And I'm like, man, I got to jump through these hoops. They took one player from that, and it was me. So I played really well those 3 days. I was living in the hotel right next door, and so Kupchak came to me, and Mitch has always been great. We still have a great relationship when I see him. He says, well, enjoy your week here. You've earned it. So I thought I had a week. So I told my wife, I was like, and she was home. And at that time, she actually called me. Actually, the next day after this happened, she called me and said she was pregnant. Well, now I got to make the team for sure, because I got a kid coming.
No pressure.
I'm living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and she was working and making her $800 a month, and I was refereeing just so I could practice.
Yeah.
So I'd practice 9 hours a day, and then I'd go referee at night just to make my extra couple hundred so we could just survive. And we were just trying to make it through. So I was sending home the meal money for us to pay bills. I wasn't even using it. I'd use it very sparingly in training camp.
Taco Bell pregame.
Whatever, like Taco Bell, bagels. I was just anything I grab at the hotel that was free. I was just stockpiling. I mean, it was unbelievable. So, so Mitch said, "You're enjoy your week here." So I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna shoot it every time. Like, I don't care if I'm only getting a week here. I'm getting some shots up."
Yeah.
Well, I ended up making them. So that put me on the map with the team. They were like, we knew he was good. I learned the triangle in 3 days. I went back to my room and studied it. Picking up basketball concepts is not hard. I mean, first book I read was 10 Best Offenses versus Zone Defense when I was like 6. And my dad taught me how to read all the stuff. So my dad was a coach. So I picked up basketball concepts has been in my home since I was born. And so I like those kind of, like picking up the triangle was pretty easy for me, even though there's 99 options in it. They flow and progress pretty easy. So I picked it up in like 3 days. I was ready to run it with the main unit. So I got to play with the starters because I knew the offense, where other guys coming into the team didn't know it. Guys returning didn't want to practice, like Ron Harper and Brian Shaw. They were like, my knees are hurting. And since I knew it, they would always say, hey, Mike, jump in for me. So, you know what I mean? So like I was prepared to be able to step into that spot, and then when Shaq and Kobe would throw it to me, I just had to make it, and then I became a guy that they wanted to have on the court because they could trust me. So, crazy. That was a crazy first couple of weeks, stressful.
Yeah.
My first game I had 17 against Charlotte. Thank you, Baron Davis and Hersey Hawkins. It was great. They didn't want to play, and I was like, yes, these guys don't want to play hard. I'm going to have a good game. And then, I played against Mitch Richmond and Rod Strickland the next night in Washington, had 14 points. And then, so I had these good games to come out of the gate. That was the first one called in the game at Charlotte, and I thought he was calling somebody else. Phil was like, Mike, get in the game. And I'm like, who is he yelling at? And he's like, would you hurry up? And I'm like, me? Oh, I thought I would never play, So when I was thrown in there, thankfully I made my shots.
Yeah.
And I didn't screw up the offense.
Yeah. Well, man, I just think hearing that, it's like you were prepared.
Yeah.
You know, we go in thinking, oh, why not? Why me? You know,
Right.
that type of thing. I mean, you were working hard,
Great
pursuing
shape.
that. I think,
Yeah.
you know, there's some right timing, but you had your chance and you were ready. So you got to tell us about, you know, the posting up with Shaq, and he's clearing everybody out. You got to share that story. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, he was.
How he kind of, you know, he gravitated towards you.
Yeah, we became close. I mean, my locker, you know, they put the rookies in the Sparks locker room, so we couldn't even dress with the Lakers. So they moved me to the Sparks locker room with Madsen and Medvedenko and a couple other rookies that were trying to make the team. And then after I played well in training camp, they moved me back in before everybody else. So I noticed my locker was next to Shaq's, which. Like, I mean, I only had half a locker because he's gigantic. I mean, he takes up 2 lockers. His shoes are everywhere. I mean, everything's going. I'm always like pushing his stuff out of the way. He's taking up half of mine and his. I mean, so we became really close. The first day of training camp, I was standing there basically holding up the wall. I mean, there was nobody knew who I was, and they had already won the championship, so it was media day. Was the first day of camp. So I'm standing there with a jersey on, and everybody thinks like, who's the ball boy? It's like Jersey Day, like, you know, Make-A-Wish Day for this guy. Yes, congratulations, you know. So nobody thought like I was anybody, and so I didn't get asked any questions. A couple guys were like, "Who are you?" You know, like reporters.
Yeah.
But Shaq knew about me because he had asked, you know, who's coming into camp, who we got, do we have any shooters? And so he pointed at me across the whole gym. I mean, and they have it set up where around the gym every player has their own booth. Right, so the reporters just go around because, you know, we won the championship. So national championship, the NBA national champion, like the whole world's coming.
Yeah.
Japanese.
Yeah, it's the Lakers
it's
too.
The Lakers too. So it's an absolute zoo. He points at me and calls me over, and the sea of reporters opens so I can walk through it.
Like a movie scene.
And I was like, and as I got closer to him, like he's up a little higher on top of it. I mean, he's already 7'3". He's like. Any bigger, I mean, he's Goliath. So I'm staring up at him, and he reaches down and he says, "I'm glad you're here." And he shakes my hand. My arm's just swallowed. Like my hand just disappears. I'm nervous, like, don't break my hand, you know. And he just, he says, "I'm glad you're here. I need shooters, you know. So I'm glad you're here."
That's cool.
So that kind of calmed me down. It didn't make the pressure go away, you know, when he threw the ball to me. Because when he throws the ball to you, I mean, I know now. And having been in that role on the other side, like when I was the best player on the team in Europe and stuff, I would pass the ball to the young guy. You know, he wants to make it and I want him to make it because I want to be able to trust him, or I'm just going to keep it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't need to pass it to you. Yeah. So, Shaq was probably saying the same thing. Like, you know, I'm going to limit my passes.
Yeah.
This sucker better make it. And so, you know, thank God it went in. But yeah, he and I became close. He was a lot of fun. We ate meals on the road together constantly. We both liked club sandwiches. He would order 2, I would order 1. He'd be like 2 Sprites for me, 1 for him. The great thing about Shaq was he would hand $100 to the lady up front, and he would say, "Hey, if you bring the food back here in less than 5 minutes, I'll give you another $100." Not one time did the food show up after 5 minutes. I mean, we got our food like that. Yeah. So he would drop 100 and then 100. He'd tip him $200 for club sandwiches. You know,
that's cool.
That happened often. He was a generous guy, really good person.
Yeah. No more bagels when you're hanging out with Shaq.
No more bagels. A lot of steak and ribs. And basically whatever I wanted. You know, he was.
Yeah, that's cool.
He wanted to make sure he took care of everybody.
Now I know you had obviously, you know, sharing about the highlights, but I know there was some you know, some tough times in there. I think you had some injuries. You know, going through that. How'd you get through all that? I mean, what was your continued goal? I mean, you don't look at many 6'2", 6'3" white guys, not the most athletic. Yeah. Don't worry, I fall in that category too. So I'm not discriminating.
No,
but
I mean,
how'd you get through that? What was the drive that kept you going?
Well, I just believed in myself. I mean, I believe. My dad told me when I was young, you know, God's made you special. There's something out there for you. So I always believed it. Sports always came easy for me. I was great at baseball. I could have played pro. I chose not to. I went to play college basketball at Masters. I could have played anything. Tennis was easy for me. Golf was easy for me. I think sports and hand-eye coordination is easy. That's a gift. So my dad recognized at a young age, he played pro baseball with the Cardinals. So he had seen the pro game and he thought I was going to go that route, you know. But sports was always easy for me. And I always picked up pretty quickly. So, but persevere, like I always knew, I always believed God had something special for me. So when I would get in those tough times where I tore my hamstring in the Pacers camp, I was starting for them in the summer league. Like I thought that was my end. Larry Bird called me as soon as I wasn't drafted and said, "Hey, come play for us." I go there to my idol, Larry Bird at the time. You know, I'm thinking this is my chance, and I tear my hamstring. I mean, popped it. I was done sitting. I was working in a warehouse after that. You know, because I couldn't run. I couldn't even practice. So I had to say no to Phil Jackson in '97, which that role would have been a world championship team because I missed out on that because of my hamstring. So, you know, when you're going through that and you're questioning, man, are you serious about this? Like, really, Lord? Like, this is what you want me to do? And so many people said, hey, you know, it's time to hang it up, man. Like, and I would get a call and invite to play, and I would just, okay, I'm going to go play in the CBA. You know, I'm going to go play in second division Germany, which is, you know, like the YMCA. It's, you know, awful. And so, you know, it was having to just believe that, okay, Lord, I'm just going to just keep stepping through this door. This is what you have for me. I didn't have anything really to stress about in terms of our family. My wife was unbelievably supportive and like, let's roll. I'll go to Germany with you. We'll duke it out over there. So we went to Venezuela and played. I mean, I was just a mercenary for a couple of years, but I also developed as a player. Like I was a super skilled player, and I became more of an individual one-on-one player. So my game grew as I got older, and your skill set always grows in basketball. Your athleticism shrinks. There's a ceiling there, but the ceiling, it never ends in skills, right? Yeah. So that's why people can golf till they're 50, because it's a skill game. It's not an athleticism thing. So basketball is the same way. A lot of these older guys are doing it. Vince Carter's still doing it. His athleticism has dropped, but his skill set's up. So my skill set just kept getting better, and I kept working 7-8 hours a day at it. So when I came out of that after an injury, being cut, not making teams, cut from the CBA, like what are we doing? Second division Germany, Venezuela, playing in Caracas. You know, that's a constant just belief that, okay, Lord, you're gonna change this. You're gonna make it real clear to me that we're done, or there's something more for me. So I'm gonna have to just keep pushing through. And no matter what anybody else says, my wife's on board. You know, I mean, we're now married, and she better tell me like it's time to shut her down. When I made the Lakers, I told her this is my last go. So like if I don't make it here, I'm not doing this. And that was my 3rd year as a pro. So she was like, fine, you know, let's do it. And you know, it was against all odds. I mean, there weren't many my parents, and I don't know of my relatives. I never heard them say anything, but I would assume they're like, well, it'll be fun, you know, maybe he'll make it. But nobody that I knew. My coach in college, Bill Oates, believed in me, you know, and he saw me at my best, and he believed it. John Wooden told me I'd play in the NBA when I met him. He saw me practice, and he said, I was 19, and he said, I think you got a chance to play in the NBA. I think you're going to make it. And I was like, okay. So you see what I mean? Like there were little signs along the way. Yeah. NBA camps, playing against NBA players. Ty said, and he played against them in the summer league. You know, you should be in the NBA. You're good. You know, like, so there was like these pieces of like, okay, there's something here. You know, what do you have? And so there's an absolute, just a real trust that I believe in God, and I believe He's real, and I believe He did have a plan, and I just had to trust and just work towards that. And if the door shuts, He's going to shut it. Yeah.
I think that's good for people to hear. I mean, you want to keep fighting through that. Doesn't mean we're all going to play in the NBA.
No.
I have a similar journey. Mine never ended up in the NBA. But I look at that and the things that God was preparing me for, you know, and now where He's put you and around, still in the game, affecting so many people, having that, like we talk about Phil, having these guys have respect. They look up to you. They know what you've been able to do. You're a world champion, a Laker. I mean, there's so much that God was doing in that time. Looking back, I think this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I think we can get discouraged. Like I know for a long time, I had NBA dreams, you know, bounced around and never made it. But looking back,
right.
Not that I wish I didn't. I still wish I would have made it. That's still a dream. Right. But what happened through that has created my ministry and my passion to help people own their faith through sports. So a similar, again, I think we don't need to look at those valleys that we're in as sometimes, the popped hamstring or whatever it is in a work life or family life. If we stay focused on God, I think those things are going to come back around as beneficial skills.
Right.
And it might not be the jump shot or the crossover, but it's life skills. Yeah.
No question.
For sure. Now, I've seen you play. I've seen some tape, and I think you had to work obviously hard to get where you're at, but I think you also, the way you played, you had this scrappy, just no holds barred. I mean, talk about the way you competed with Kobe.
Yeah.
Tell me, how'd you own your faith through all that? Because it's set, there's such this line. Like, I think if we were to look at not know Mike and look at him on the court, be like, man, that guy, he's got a screw loose. I think you played with that edge. How'd you balance that with kind of owning your faith and, hey, this is the way I need to play to be effective?
Yeah, good question. Well, there were times when I didn't do it well. And, I think when I think back to it, I mean, there are times when you obviously, when you play at that level for a guy like me and for all the NBA players really, when everybody raises their game, it is a little bit crazy. I mean, there's an element of physicality with no pads that you've got to be able to push through. There's scratching and bleeding and banging and bumping, and so there's a mental and physical toughness that has to be in there, and there's a desire to want to take somebody out if you have to. Now, it's a game; it's not life, So to be able to walk off those lines and know that I don't need to do anything, it all stayed on the floor. Like, that was pushed to me at a young age. So when you walk on the floor, and most of my life, I would say 80% of my life as a basketball player, when I walked on the floor, the comment was, I'll guard this little blankety blank white boy. So there was never instant respect. And it happened even in my 9th year in Europe, where I'll take this little blankety blank white guy. So, not hard to have a chip on your shoulder. Somebody says to me, guess what, I'm going to score on you? You're going to remember this blankety blank white boy. And you might end up on the ground the whole game. Yeah. Got no problem with that. So, it raises your intensity to a point where I didn't have any problem trying to hurt you. No problem. It's part of the game. And if you don't make it out, that's your problem. So, but I'm still gonna do what I can to win. And so it's hard. This is hard to explain that, but like I didn't feel like I was crossing any lines because it was a game. And that was told to me. I remember having a hard time my freshman year in college with that battle, Yeah. And the only way I was going to be able to compete with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my strength for the Lord, it was going to have to be all in. And then I was going to just mature as a person. And then I remember, John MacArthur was our president of our school. I remember he called me to his house and he said, I see you're struggling a little bit. Because there were games when I'd play 35 points and the next game I'd have like 10. And I would think, well, I'm just going to pass to everybody and be a servant, I'm going to be humble and I'm going to just, love everybody, and I would have these like pathetic games. And he goes, Mike, it's a game. Like, just compete as hard as you can. And as I got older, I learned that basketball was a form of worship to God for me. So that changed that pursuit as well, was that God created basketball for me and him to grow me closer to him, not to pull me away from him. So there was a competitiveness there. Like I said, there were times when I felt like, okay, I crossed the line here. But there was never a feeling like, unless I went intentionally or I said something, trash talk, because trash talk was part of the game when I grew up. It's not now. Nobody trash talks anymore. But that was a part of the mental edge that you played with. And you could say some things that were, borderline crazy. And to have them said back, and you're having these conversations with Gary Payton and referees, and like that. I mean, it's just the what you can imagine could go on there that is said at the highest and worst possible thing. Those things are being said. And how do you navigate that and not cross a line? I didn't learn until later in life that basketball was there not so that I can make God known. He doesn't need my help with that. billions of things around the world, galaxy, stars. He doesn't need me to help with that. He made it for us, for me and him. And I'm going to grow closer to him through basketball. When I saw that, my game elevated. I enjoyed the game more. I did grow closer to the Lord. I got to know him better. And I was able to see it in that perspective.
Interesting. I hadn't heard you share that before. Don't know if I heard that at all, that perspective, but I like that's something that is drawing us near, because sports is a great way, and this is what I always share with people about youth sports, is it gives kids a chance to fail. And we just don't have that enough. We're the coddling, and I think, and it's not only the failure, but it's how we respond to that. And I think having God as part of that, because like you said, I don't want anyone to miss that. Like, you made mistakes. There's no doubt. Like, we can love the Lord. You get between the lines, and okay, I went too far with that.
Yep.
I shouldn't,
no question.
I shouldn't get into it with Gary Payton,
With
that
anybody.
type of thing. Yeah. And so that's a great perspective to look at it as a game. And I think, people that know you off the court, obviously, is that, you're sometimes can be a different person.
Right.
I think that can be hard for celebrities, professional athletes, because we see this persona that the television gives us. It's not who we really are.
For sure.
But I think social media, in a way, has helped a lot in that, because you get to see behind the scenes.
That's a good point.
How popular sports are. I mean, the NBA is more popular in the off season now than it is during the season, because all the drama and different things that unfold, and getting to know the person. So I think that helps in today's game, getting to know somebody, just hearing your heart now is great. So I know your journey has obviously been a roller coaster. Some NAIA college ball. You make the NBA, you win a title with the Lakers. You get cut. You're playing in Italy. Now you're back coaching in the NBA. So really a roller coaster. But as you look back on this, on your basketball, I know there's a testimony that goes along with it. And so often we look at Mike Penberthy. We've been talking about Mike Penberthy, the basketball player. But who came along? Who was the person or persons that came along and was really that kind of mentor, discipleship, and help you with that owning your faith in your game? Because it really sounds like you took that serious. It's something you thought about. Yeah. Who was that person?
Well, it started with my father. I mean, he was a pastor's kid, basketball coach, teacher. So he came out of the church. So my mom was, that's where the name Duncan comes from. It's her maiden name. So, and he actually started the Master's College. So that was kind of his, gift to the world. Was he started? It was Elliott Baptist College, and it turned to Masters when he moved on. But he, I grew up in the Christian home. So for me, my father and mother instilled in me just the importance of daily time in the Word, daily prayer, making it, a discipline in your life. That started there. That was the foundation from there. After that, a guy named Ashley Knoll became a very important person in terms of the perspective of worship to God, and that Christ is your all satisfying person that you are pursuing. Nothing else matters, because I had reached the top of the mountain with the NBA and I wasn't satisfied. I didn't feel anything, because the next day I had to go make the team. Didn't matter. The ring, what's the ring mean? Nothing. I got a ring. It's nice. It's great. But I still got to make the team. That ain't going to pay the bills. I ain't going to, move on. I'm 25 years old with a ring, NBA championship ring. So I reached the goals, but you're at the top of the mountain and there's nothing there. And I remember just thinking, okay, Christ is everything I need. And now I got to pursue that. And then I bumped into this guy, Ash, and he changed everything for me. Just understanding that God doesn't need me to make him. God needs you. He wants you, Mike. That's who he wants. And he doesn't want anything but you. He already knows about your gifts. He already knows all that. He wants you, and he wants the pain in your life that you talked about. I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think there's no growth without pain. None of that. And there was a ton of pain in my life. All those years, there's more, but my dad passed away the year after I made the Lakers and won the championship. So, you're going through difficulty. There's only pain. There's soreness in everything in life. That was the life of Christ, right? I mean, the perfect model is Christ. What happened? He ended up having to die. There's pain there, in order to have that blessing. So I always get a little nervous when things are going well because I'm thinking, okay, so there's some pain coming here because that's how you grow in life. And so my father, my mother, and then this guy Ash really helped me. And he threw these questions on me, and I'm big into philosophy and thinking and theology. That was my major, was Bible exposition. So I still read, a lot of the great thinkers and study that. And Ash came out of that. He was a fellow at Oxford. And so he would say, why do you play basketball? And now I'm like, my head's spinning. Well, to glorify God. No. He would just go, no. I'd be like, okay. And it would take me months to come up with an answer. So, we would just work through that, and he became a big influence in my life.
That's cool. And Ash couldn't shoot a 3 to save his life, I bet.
No, he could swim in a pool, and he couldn't throw a ball anywhere near a basket.
Yeah,
Not
yeah. Well, that's great, and had a big impact on somebody who's spent his life around basketball. That's cool. So as you look back, I mean, you obviously saved at a young age and grew up in a Christian home, and that how far you've come probably in your personal walk. We've heard a little of that. Was there anything else that really, I mean, it sounds like basketball and a few of these people in your life, anything else that really kind of had a big impact in you growing closer to the Lord and just that journey that you've been on with God?
Yeah, I mean, having kids, changes your perspective on God. You understand what it means that He's your Father. Because you get what He sees in you, you see in your kids.
So good, yeah.
So I see God differently because I have kids. Being married and figuring out how to work and love and sacrifice and give of myself and die to myself.
Yeah.
Like, how do you die to yourself? When the world maybe has put you on a pedestal, but you come home, you guess what? It don't matter.
Yeah.
She don't care. She knows everything about you. So that's a big part of it. My Bible major in college was a huge part of that. There's a knowledge there that's necessary, I think, to grow, and an understanding of how it works and who Christ is, and the pursuit of that is important. Yeah. Daily podcasts now. That's what I listen to. I listen to John Piper and Francis Chan and Matt Chandler and Ravi Zacharias and R.C. Sproul. So I have podcasts on a daily basis because my schedule can be crazy. Sometimes I don't make it to church, but thank God for podcasts and YouTube. I mean, so those are big influences in my life currently.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you hit on that because I think it is, not to glance over, but you're still pursuing that.
No question.
Like we're talking about, you today, but you're still pursuing the knowledge, the growth, and I think that's an important aspect. No matter where we're at, there's been that constant in your life. If you realize that about yourself, but hey, I'm seeking, I'm growing, I'm learning, doing all that stuff, and we're going through that, and how. Like you said, how Christ, you would use the word sacrifice is what I was thinking, I mean, with family and kids and all that, even your game. So am I going to go hang out with my buddies, or am I going to go to bed early because I got to get a workout in the morning? There's, to be prepared for what God has for you next, what's your next, whatever that dream is, whatever God's put on your heart. So important. Okay, so you've gone from player to coach.
Right.
Let's talk about current day a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're with you were coaching with actually, let's go back to kind of your coaching, because I think it's important to guys know, like, oh man, he's in the NBA now. He was a player and kind of now he's in the coach in the NBA. That's not really how it went for you.
Right.
You were doing a lot of personal training, helping guys with their shot. Walk us through kind of what those couple years were like, and then kind of really, with the Timberwolves and now with the Pelicans, just your niche and what you've been doing with the coaching.
Yeah, it's player development. It's I worked basically with the help of a couple of guys in terms of like steering me in certain directions in terms of player development, my own personal player development, and then I practiced 8-9 hours a day. So everything I learned and built, I took Mike Penberthy, nobody out of high school, to an NBA championship team. Like, there's a skill set that was developed there and kept developing. So, I would leave. I would shoot every day, and I would leave. I wouldn't leave unless I made 100 in a row. There's not many guys in the NBA that can do that now. So there's very few. So that was a normal day for me. So I worked to that point. So I just have now taken those daily disciplines, and now I'm putting them into NBA players. Now it started with kids. I started a little youth program, and that was how I made my money, by working kids out and youth. And so I started young. I was training. I started when I was 16, working out 12-year-old kids, trying to figure out a way to get them to shoot the ball better. And then so I learned how to teach and communicate and trial and error, a lot of those things. And so the breeding ground, like if I can teach a 12-year-old how to shoot, I can teach an NBA player. If I can't teach a 12-year-old, I probably can't teach an NBA player. The reality is, like, the simplicity of explanation in terms of the mechanics has to be easy for a 12-year-old, so that an NBA player is willing to say, I'm willing to forego what I know and abandon what I've taught and listen to you. It has to be that simple and that clear. If it's not, he's not going to trust me. Even if I'm a great shooter, but I can't communicate that clearly in a way that is obvious, where I'm in his head before he gets to those moments. Like, I do that now. That's how I got Paul George, Chris Middleton, Kyle Korver, Reggie, like all these NBA players to buy, because I could get into their head before they got to those points. And I would say, okay, right now you're going to feel this. Because I know, well, I did it. I know. I wasn't a great shooter in high school. I became one. I wasn't born one. Nobody's born a good shooter. Good hand-eye coordination is great, but I wasn't a great shooter. And I built myself into one. So I knew what they were doing ahead of time. So I went from little kids and maintained doing that. Got in with Andre Iguodala, did Dwayne Wade, and then it started to build. Reggie Jackson and Paul George, and then just more guys started coming. Okafor and Luka Doncic has now been with me for 4 years. And so you start landing good players, and now you realize Drew Holiday, probably one of my favorite people on earth. Like, you learn how to talk to a guy who's a superstar, and can you communicate your message, convey your message to help not only a 12-year-old kid, but a superstar become better? How do you make those guys better? So shooting became the niche. It turned into more, because obviously that wasn't what I was doing in Europe. I was doing more pick and rolls and driving kicks and more complete skill sets. So it became more ball handling and passing and reading and understanding defenses and the 7 levels of a pick and roll and how to develop those issues. So it gets deeper and deeper and deeper as we go. But only a superstar can understand those things, because I can't tell a 12-year-old that.
Yeah.
You just say, I'm going to shoot it, or I'm going to shoot it. Like, that's his only option. But, Drew Holiday is going to say, okay, there's 7 options here in this pick and roll. How are we going to figure this out? And I can help him navigate that, because I had to do it. So that's where it's gone to now.
That's really cool. So what's it like now sitting on an NBA bench? You went with the Pelicans the last few years and helping kind of more of the team. You've been enjoying that?
Yeah, I mean, you're learning the NBA game and kind of what would my system be. So I'm trying to put those pieces in place so that I can become a head coach. Hopefully someday get that opportunity. Just need to get interviewed and see where I need to fail. In some interviews. I need to fail at some applications. And so I'm studying under a great guy who really knows his stuff, Chris Finch. I've studied under Phil Jackson. We ran John Wooden's offense. That's why he came to our practices in college. So I learned a ton from him. So I know the UCLA. I know a number of offenses really well, and now it's just kind of figuring out what I would do. So you're seeing the game. 82 games is a lot of games. So you do that for a couple of years. You see how the game flow, how it works, what would and what wouldn't work. So you're just trying to put all that together. So hopefully I'll get the opportunity to do that. There's a book to be written about that too. There's a lot of information that you're trying to chop down to and then simply say, I need you to turn the corner on the next play. Like, it was what came through that filter is just a ton of information, and you're doing it in session. So now with Drew, I speak. Drew Holiday, Anthony Davis sit right in front of me, and I just personally coach them. You should do this. Every time they touch the ball, I have a comment. So when you do this, you should have done this. You should have done that. What did you have me do there? What do you think about this? Like, so we're in game making adjustments. Reverse pivot on the catch. Don't front pivot. Front pivot on him. Go right. He's forcing you left. Break through his overarm. Get to a step back. Drew, get to more step backs tonight. There's too many guys crowding the paint. Get off the ball early. Play on your second touch. AD, you got to kick out, repost, get to your fadeaways. So there's always new information coming. At a deeper level, that now that the relationship is built close and tight, I can have a direct influence on the game, and they're so good, they really don't need me. But it's nice to be able to say, hey, think about doing this. And there are times they look at me and go, what should I do? Just dribble right at him, hezzy, shoot that 3. Got it.
Yeah.
You know, and so they're so
Yeah.
good they can do that.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's
it's really
fun.
a tribute to them.
And I know you enjoy that. Yeah, that's
yeah.
yeah,
Love
just
it.
breaking down that game, and it's fun. I think people don't. They sit and watch. You know, they love basketball. They might understand some stuff, and when I hear you talk and breaking it down,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like that, how deep the game goes, and what these guys are thinking about on the court.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're the Pelicans general manager now. You have the first pick.
Oh boy, I don't want that job. I'm glad it's somebody else.
Who are you taking this year?
I mean Zion. It depends on what happens with Anthony Davis. You know, I mean if I'm sitting in that chair, I got to know what he wants to do, and if he wants to stick around, great. Then that may change what you do with that pick. Maybe you trade it, get more guys, get maybe some more veterans. Maybe we try to get another All-Star with that. Maybe we keep it and we try to build it around that.
Mm-hmm.
John Morant's a phenomenal player.
Yeah.
I mean, so you got some RJ Barrett's a really good player. You got some guys there that the league is turning to a more skilled league. It's not a super athlete league.
Mm-hmm.
It's a super skilled league. So do you take into consideration those guys? I'm glad it's not my decision. I don't know what I would do, but I can only imagine they're probably fielding thousands of phone calls from teams with different proposals on how can we get the.
Yeah.
We have the two most wanted players in the NBA right now. We have Anthony Davis and we have Zion Williamson. Like that. That's
Yeah.
what we have.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to want to get those guys. So
Yeah.
why not? I can only imagine that phone's probably ringing off the hook.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it's not me. I'm just look. All I know is I'm glad we have Drew Holiday for sure next year.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so I know you have you got a couple boys playing ball.
Mm-hmm.
They still listen to you?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I've tried not to be the guy who, like I told them all along, you guys can do whatever you want. I'm gonna support and love. If you don't play basketball, then that's fine.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
when you do play, I'm gonna clap and cheer. And when you make mistakes, I'm gonna give you a hug. So, not interested in being the guy like that was barking orders at them. I said, if you want to know something from me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I've done this my whole life.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of trial and error and pain
Mm-hmm.
that I've gone through to get to what I know. If you want to know, just ask me.
Yeah.
So now the relationship is a good one. You know, where
Yeah.
it never was bad. It just now they want to know more. They want to understand more. So that the relationship is really good.
Yeah, that's great. So if you're your oldest is how old?
He's 18.
18, and your middle
16.
16. So if you're 18, who wins in a shooting contest?
Between me and him?
Yeah.
Well, I don't miss. So
When you're 18? No, not now.
at 18?
If you're
Oh, he
18,
beats. Oh, he
he
beats.
beats
If I'm
you?
18
Yeah.
and he's 18, oh, he beats me.
Okay.
He
But
beats me
you're-
easily. I wasn't
yeah.
that good.
I know Ty can
16
shoot
year
it.
old for sure. He's better than both of them. He's probably
Okay.
better than Ty and me.
That's fun.
At 18, no, I was not. I was more of a point guard. I wasn't a good shooter at all.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay. Okay. Take us back before the 112 straight threes at Masters.
Yeah.
And I think I know the answer to this, but who is the biggest influence, not just spiritually or basketball, but in your life?
Biggest influence in my life, yeah, probably my father.
Yeah.
Until he passed away. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how do you deal with traveling now with your schedule? It's crazy, and you got 3 kids at home, and
Yeah.
they're getting older. So I
Yeah.
know that is important to you as a father and a husband to be there. So what I know you wrestle with that. How do you work
Yeah.
that?
Thank God for FaceTime. I mean, my kids and I talk more when I'm away than when I'm home, because they can call me at any time. So
Yeah.
I'm always available to them. My wife and I, we talk every day, FaceTime. I mean, it's a running conversation. There's never a time we set. We just continue to do it, and I use FaceTime. So that's how we do it, and it's constant. It's work to communicate. You know, it's work to keep a relationship. It's work to make it better. It's not something that just evolves into something good. We're fallen and selfish, and so we'll go our separate ways, but we have to work to maintain it. So the truth about our relationship is that she's the key. She's amazing. So I couldn't do what I do without my amazing wife.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so we like to do something on the show. We do a little rapid fire.
Dope.
Okay. So
This may be tough for me. I'll keep it to one word answer.
all right, we'll do slow fire.
Okay.
Okay. If you didn't play basketball, what sport would you play?
Baseball.
Most memorable shot you've ever made?
Probably in Europe, game winner against the number 1 team in Europe from about 30 feet. I just held the ball for 10 seconds and hezzied from about 30 feet. It was Steph Curry before Steph Curry.
Nice. Launch it. Okay. What's the shot that still haunts you that you missed?
Free throw to win the game in Berlin in the championships. I missed it. The guy got the rebound and made a 3/4 court shot to tie the game. So if I'd made it, that would have been a 4-point.
Yeah.
We would have won. I missed the free throw. I was shot 91% that year, and I missed a free throw. And he made the 3/4 court shot, and they beat us in overtime.
Wow.
So I'll never forget that one.
Yeah, that's a fresh wound still.
Oh.
Okay, what's your favorite thing to do on an off day?
Golf.
All right, I figured. Who's your favorite all-time basketball player?
Oh, Michael Jordan. Yeah.
Okay, who in the last 20 years since you broke in the league, who do you feel like has been the most dominant player that you've played with or been around?
Shaq.
Yeah.
No question. Nobody could guard Shaq. Nobody. Never. And I saw Sabonis, 350 pounds. You know, there were big Tim Duncan, David Robinson. He mowed through Divac. He mowed through all these guys. Every single one of those guys he destroyed.
Tell us about, was it, I don't know, the Western Conference Finals? You guys finally lost a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we won in the finals. We lost in the finals.
Yeah.
To Philadelphia.
And then Shaq comes back.
Yeah.
What was his attitude?
I mean, he averaged like 40 and 20 after that.
And he just took over.
Yeah, he just throw me the ball. Like we played against. Here's a good story. We played against David Robinson and Tim Duncan, and he said in the timeout to us, "Just throw me the ball. I'm scoring every time." And every time he scored, he called David Robinson a name every time, and he dunked it 4 times in a row in the first quarter. Like there was literally nothing you could do to stop him. So, yeah, he destroyed Mutombo.
Yeah.
I mean, these are 7-foot guys that are 250, 300 pounds.
Yeah.
He just embarrassed them. So.
Wow. All right, favorite city you lived in while you were playing overseas?
Oh, Napoli. Naples.
Mm.
Love it. I speak, io parlo bene italiano sempre. Lo stesso. I miss Italy. I still dream in Italian.
Really?
Yeah, I speak it fluently. I was there 7 years, so.
Okay.
Naples was.
You guys been back since you stopped playing?
No, I haven't been back. I'm looking forward to going back though.
Cool. Favorite golf course you ever played?
Favorite golf is Ko'olau. I think that's in Hawaii. I think it's called Ko'olau. It was one of the hardest courses I ever played. Anything off the fairway went into the jungle. It was like jungle. It was like built into like a volcano. And every shot you hit, you could see off the volcano mountain. It was absolutely beautiful. Played with the Lakers in training camp.
Okay.
It was fun.
Favorite course you want to play that you haven't?
Yeah, Pebble Beach for sure.
All right.
Definitely.
All right. Can I come?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So current day, Pelicans. Who's your favorite player to coach?
Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like a superhero. He's like a cartoon. You know, his body. He can do anything you want. Like his body he can move and jump and like anything I tell him to do, he can do. So I feel like I'm like playing a video game with him. Like
Fun.
He's amazing person.
One player that you really felt like you had a huge impact on helping them like develop their game, their
Paul George for sure. About 6 years, 6 summers with him.
Nice. Yeah. Why the bow tie? I like it.
Yeah,
but we want to know.
The story behind it is. I was in Minnesota. I was getting ready to get dressed, and Flip Saunders says, "Hey, you know, you're kind of the professor of our team. Like guys go to you for questions, and you have answers. Why don't you? You're kind of the professor." And I was like, "All right, I'll try to figure out how do I work that. I got to dress it." And he goes, "How about you wear a bow tie?" I mean, Flip Saunders was amazing. He was an amazing man. And he goes, "Put a bow tie on." So I wore a bow tie the first day. And he was like, "Yeah, there you go." And his son, Ryan, now new head coach, was like, "Oh, the professor." So he was the one that kind of coined that name, but not the professor as our friend, the professor, but in a different light was because the players would always be like, "Hey, Mike, how do I do this?" Or "How do I do that?" So I was kind of the how-to guy. And I still am with our team. So that was kind of my role. So that was how it became, hey, it's the professor. And then we won our first preseason game. Of course, we only won like 14 games that year. It was a horrible year. And I was like, "I'm not sure this is working." He was like, "You got to wear one every game now." So I ended up having to buy, more bow ties. And then people started sending them to me. So I ended up having like 80 bow ties.
Mike Penberthy, the basketball guy.
That's right. That's right.
Bill Nye.
Bill
yeah,
Nye.
You need your own show.
That's a good one.
All right. So as a coach, as an athlete, like you've really dealt in both of those spaces. What would you tell somebody in that space that's listening and watching about how you've connected God to your game? And we spoke on it a little bit, but what would be some advice, some encouragement that you would want to give somebody in that space trying to own their faith within their game? You know, as difficult as that is, even obviously on an NBA level, but even at a high school level.
Yeah, I think in order to grow closer to God, in order to improve and grow at anything, it takes work, and a lot of work. So, hard work in basketball, hard work in your spiritual life, hard work in your relationships. Like, it takes work, and in that is pain, in that is suffering, in that is growth, and it's a cycle that continues to grow throughout your life. So, if you want to grow closer to God through basketball, you have to work at both God and basketball, and then they merge. And where they merge in your life, you find, new revelations of both. So I think that's with any sport. It just takes work, it takes sacrifice, it takes discipline, it takes effort, it takes pain, it takes soreness, it takes growth, it takes work, it takes effort. It just keeps going. And your spiritual life is exactly the same way. And like I said before, Jesus Christ's example is the way to see it. Dives in with people, lives a hard life, loves others, dies, and then comes back to life. Like, there's a cycle there that happens again. And so I believe it's the same with us, and I think that's how God's set it up. But it takes a ton of work and being willing to go through difficult times, knowing that God is in control. Being willing to work at your game, knowing that you're going to come out on your side as a better player, even though you may suck or stink for a while, but knowing you're going to get better and pushing through that. I think that's part of how God put it together.
Yeah, that's good. I think we got to work at it, and the eternity sports is a big part of what we want to do is that give people a platform to learn, to glean from someone that's been through there. And obviously been able to find success, and I would encourage people to find somebody to help alongside.
Yeah.
I mean, we should be helping people along the way, but we need to make sure that we are being fed. Whether it's podcasts, being in church, another believer on your team, you guys are in that together. I think doing that alone can be hard. I walked through that alone for a while when I had first found the Lord, and finding a way with your sport, coaching, playing, whatever that is. But I think that word work, in other words, you really were hitting on with sacrifice. Those are real valuable things for us to not forget, because we can get caught up in the way I'm feeling.
Right.
And we forget about up here and the things that we know and the promises of God. So that's really good. All right, as we wrap, we like to ask everybody to turn us on to somebody that's playing for eternity. That's a professional athlete, and that we can have on the show. Who you got for us?
I'm gonna try to talk to. I think Aaron Badley's a guy I'll call.
Okay.
PJ Tour, 20 years on the tour. So
yeah.
There's a number of other guys, but I'm gonna talk to Aaron and see if he can get on board together.
That'd be good. We love to have him.
Yeah.
And I know you got a big golf tournament coming up.
Yeah.
Good luck there. We're recording this in the off season, so you're not skipping practice. You're Mike can hit the ball a ton. He's an amazing athlete. Amazing athlete. I appreciate you sharing today, being on the show, just letting people see. I know everyone wants to talk basketball and Shaq and Kobe and Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday, but I think you run so much deeper than that. And I think guys look at you, and I think they see the authenticity, and I think they see a guy who loves the Lord, and they want to be around, and I want to keep doing what you're doing, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
All right, you bet.
Thank you.